Autumn, a poem by India's great poet Kalidas. The autumn comes a maiden fair in slenderness and grace, with nodding rice stems in her hair and lilies in her face. In flowers of grasses she is clad, and as she moves along, birds greet her with their cooing glad, like a bracelet's tinkling song. A diadem adorns the night of multitudinous stars. Her silken robe is white moonlight set free from cloudy bars. And on her face, the radiant moon, bewitching smiles are shown. She seems a slender maid who soon will be a woman grown. The poem by Indian poet Kalidas and translated by Professor A. W. Ryder. What is the central idea or the theme of this poem? Now, in this poem, Kalidas, who is one of the greatest of all Indian poets, he personifies nature as a beautiful maiden, a young girl, and the coming or the advent of autumn, the season, is compared to this beautiful young graceful girl who will soon mature as autumn progresses into a woman. The poem succeeds in giving us, the images in our mind of nodding rice stems, grass, moonlight, beautiful autumn starry night skies. And here the poet uses words to create images and uses these images to make us understand the poem. For example, with nodding rice stems in her hair and lilies in her face. Now there is no woman. Okay, there is no girl. But he is trying to make us understand the poem using this girl and says that she shakes her head and rice stems shake in her head, though they nod in her hair, and she has lilies in her face, when actually these are the things that happen during the season of autumn. Autumn is a cooling off period. It's a season which is sandwiched or in between hot summer and very cold winter. Okay, so that is why the poet says that autumn comes like a graceful, slender young girl with rice stems in her hair, lilies in her face, dressed in flowers and grass. So these are the scenes of autumn. And her coming or the coming of autumn is welcomed by birds who make lovely cooing sounds, which are likened or they are compared to the tinkling of women's bracelets. And here, maiden means a young girl, slender meaning slim, and she is dressed in grass, and bracelet is an ornament which is worn on the wrist. In the second stanza or second verse, the poet continues to liken or to compare the maiden's qualities to that of autumn. He says that there is a beautiful star-filled autumn sky which looks like a diadem meaning a diamond crown worn by the young girl. And she is also dressed or clad, in moonlight that is pure, and there are no clouds in the sky. Beautiful night of autumn. This moonlight reflects on the maiden's face and gives an image of her very, very bewitching or beautiful smile. And all in all, with the help of this maiden, the poet makes us understand how beautiful the season of autumn really is. This is the type of night sky we see during autumn. All stars, no clouds, And a diadem is a crown. Bewitching means delightful, enchanting smile. And radiant means shining or glowing brightly. Poetic devices. Birds greet her with their cooing glad. personification, because birds are given the human quality of greeting. We can also say that birds greet her with their cooing glad. So here cooing is a sound which you get immediately. The picture of what is cooing is different from roaring. So when we get an idea what the sound is, there is another figure of speech called onomatopoeia. So this could be personification or onomatopoeia. The autumn comes, a maiden fair. This figure of speech or poetic device is a metaphor, because there is a direct comparison between autumn and a maiden. Says autumn comes like a maiden. Okay. Birds greet her with their cooing glad. So I already told you about this. The word cooing produces an idea of sound made by birds. Then, will be a woman grown. Inversion. Here the word order is inverted for poetic effect. Means will, the real thing would be, when you write in prose, would be will be a grown woman. But here we invert words. It's allowed in poetry. Figure of speech named inversion for better poetic effect. A diadem adorns the night. Exclamation. A sudden expression to bring out surprise and fascination. Suddenly we look up and we see, oh, you see, the diadem adorns the night. It looks like there's a diamond crown. The stars look like they are a crown of diamonds. So sudden exclamation of surprise or fascination. And another one, her silken robe is white moonlight. We're not saying that her silken robe is like white moonlight. Directly, comparing her robe to white moonlight, which is called metaphor. Appreciation of the poem. The poem Autumn, written by one of India's greatest poets, Kalidas, is translated by Professor A.W. Ryder. Through the two stanzas of the poem, the poet gives us very, very clear and vivid images of the season of autumn while comparing it to a slender, slim, young girl. The rhyme scheme of the poem is AB, AB, CD, CD. Apart from making strong use of imagery, imagery is the figure of speech when you read, you get the picture in your mind. The poet also uses figure of speech like simile, which is a comparison, simile and metaphor, which are comparisons, personification when human qualities are given, inversion. I just explained to you about the inverted word order for poetic effect, and onomatopoeia, where while reading the sentence or the line of the poem, we get the idea of what sound is being created. So all these figures of speech are used by the poet. So this is the picture of the poet Kalidas. The poem is light-hearted. It's not a very heavy topic, and only is describing the changes that take place in nature when autumn comes. Yeah, I already explained to you, autumn comes in between summer, so autumn comes there after summer, and when autumn ends, we go into winter. Okay, and the poet is telling us about the changes that take place during autumn. Okay, as one season moves into the other, so also the poet makes us imagine a beautiful, slender, smiling maiden who will mature into an even more beautiful, lovely woman.